This is a knife designed by Christopher Kimball, who was for so long the editor-in-chief of Cook's Illustrated magazine. This chef's knife of mine is not going anywhere, but I do think that knives with improvements in them are welcome in the kitchen. Milk Street says that this knife is an homage to Japanese tradition, and when you look at the knife, you're going to see that the knife has got a 15-degree angle. It's made out of German steel, not Japanese steel, but 15 degrees is the angle that a lot of Japanese knives are sharpened at. It makes for a very, very sharp edge, but it dulls pretty easily, and so if you have a knife like this, you really want to know how to sharpen your knife. It's not quite as long as my typical chef's knives. I have a 6-inch and an 8-inch set of chef's knives. This is a 6.75, so it falls right in the middle between the two. Inside the package is the knife with a nice sheath on the blade. The knife itself has these laser etched patterns on the side. The Milk Street knife has got an ABS plastic handle that is very, very durable. ABS is the same plastic used in making parts for automobiles. It has a very nice curve to it, but it's definitely not as comfortable as some other knives that I've used, but it does feel really good and secure in the hand. Why does a knife have etchings? Well, if you take a traditional chef's knife, like this chef's knife, and you go to cut something that's sort of sticky, like a squash in this case, you'll notice that the pieces often stick together. So if I go to cut with a traditional chef's knife, after a while the pieces will sort of start sticking to the blade. It adds a motion when you cut. To keep it from sticking, you have to sort of flip the blade in order to get the pieces off. My chef's Santoku knife, by comparison, has these little divots in it. These divots create a pocket of air, which is what makes the food fall off more easily. That's the idea behind the serration in the Milk Street knife as well. Now let's take a look at how that works. This knife is very sharp. It cuts through the zucchini really effortlessly. It has a really nice fill to it. I like the size of the cuts in this. Let's see how small I can get this cut. That's really nice. Now, you can see that the claims that the food don't stick to this, a little bit exaggerated. There we go. Everyone loves cutting into a tomato as a test of how sharp a knife is. I don't think it's a perfect test. Interestingly, the grooves on the side of the knife give me some resistance when I'm cutting against the tomato. Next up, I'll try an onion. Because there's no tip to this, I'm actually able to use the same part of the blade and the same force of the blade when I'm cutting downward, and I'm getting a lot smaller cuts here, and that is even a lot better dice, and the food comes right off. The handle is reasonably comfortable. It's not the most comfortable handle that I've ever used, but it does work well, and it would work well for an entire day of cooking. One thing that's a little annoying to me is the tang down here is a little bit sharp on the edges. So here are my final thoughts. The knife is a good knife. You could give this to somebody who's getting their first house, their first kitchen, and learning to cook. This would be a very solid knife for them. It wouldn't necessarily be the best knife that you could get them, but at this price point, it's a very good knife.